Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and today we're going to be doing another budget case video, taking a look at a budget case that's out there available on Amazon for $69 and see if it's really worth the money to get this and build a new system for those of you who are looking to build your own system. I actually had to reshoot the intro to this because the audio on the original intro was actually trash, so please excuse the change in lighting between this and the video itself. But this case actually impressed me quite a bit, and I'm actually using it as my streaming PC right now. And we're talking about the Okinos Aqua 3. Definitely a very interesting case that has some benefits to building in it, as well as some things I had concerns on that actually at this time have been surprisingly not an issue. So before we get into the video and the review of the case, we're going to kick it over to a word from our sponsor. I want to take a moment just to say thank you to today's sponsor, Beam Eye Tracker. As gamers, you know that many of our games offer the availability of head or eye tracking within the game. It actually creates a whole nother level of interaction with your avatar or character within the game. These systems in general can cost upwards of $175 or even $300 to get the equipment to be able to take advantage of this. Beam Eye Tracker actually offers that at a fraction of the cost. Available on the Steam store, you can get it for $29.99, and it uses a piece of equipment that many of us already have, or is very easy to get a hold of, and that's a simple webcam. By installing Beam Eye Tracker, you actually turn your webcam into a piece of equipment that can give you the benefit of taking advantage of that interaction within the game. Beam Eye Tracker is actually compatible with over 200 games, including Star Citizen and many, many more, including driving sims, flight sims, and FPS shooters. And with a very simple install and setup, Beam Eye Tracker is a very easy way to get into the game on a whole nother level. I actually use Beam Eye Tracker myself, and I love the interaction that it gives me within the game, especially in Star Citizen, and it's a great add-on to any of the games that you enjoy playing. So to check out Beam Eye Tracker, click the link in the description, and it'll take you over to the Steam store where you can check that out. And I want to say thank you again to Beam Eye Tracker for sponsoring. And now let's return to the video. And we're back from our sponsor. And today, this is the case that we're actually going to be taking a look at. It's actually made by Okinos. I think I'm saying that correctly. And it is the Aqua 3 case. It is MATX. It actually is in the budget realm of cases. I was able to pick this up on Amazon for $69 US. And it does come with 3 120 millimeter fans with it, which appear to be ARGB. It is a glass front, glass side case, tempered glass, and then it can consist of 220 millimeter fans on top, as well as 2 on the bottom, and of course 1 on the rear. But really the question is the limited space that you have with putting the fans on the bottom. If you're running a larger graphics card, you may put that graphics card right on top of the fans. But really the other curious part of it is that if you're running a capture card or anything like that, is that you could also be limiting your access to the expansion slots on this case. And this case actually does have 4 expansion slots in the back that are available. It is, truly feels like a budget case. But what it's actually made up of is really the simplest of things that you can get on there. But there are a couple of amenities on here that are great for more modern gaming. And generally what you're going to have is 2 3.5-inch internal bays, as well as 1 2.5-inch bay. You're going to get 2 USB 3.0 ports on the front there, as well as 1 USB-C. It can fit a 330 millimeter graphics card inside, which can accommodate a good number of the 3-fan cards, but most likely you're probably going to want to go with a 2-fan card in this. It does have the 4 expansion bays that I talked about on the backside, and of course the fan complements that we spoke about with 2 120s on top, 2 120s on the bottom, and a single 120 on the rear. And then with this, it also has no front or side fans, which again, that really kind of brings into the question, is it going to be able to push enough airflow through there, especially if your fans are sitting right on top of where the PSU would be? How much air is it going to pull in past that power supply unit through the bottom here if that's being blocked off by the power supply unit? There's actually a number of different cases out there that follow this design. There are some that do it a little bit better, I think. And then, of course, this also has no real hard specs out there. I couldn't find a manufacturer website with all the specs in detail, but going on Pengali, I was able to find out everything but maximum CPU cooler height, which, looking at the case and taking my best guess at it, I'm thinking it's going to be right around 160 millimeters. As far as a cooler height, I'm got a 157 millimeter cooler from ID Cooling. I'm going to try to put in this thing and see if it fits. So hopefully it does, but I think it's going to be right around that 160 millimeter size. Overall dimensions are going to be 8.25 inches wide by 3.75 inches deep and 15.5 inches tall. So really a small footprint for this. It also does offer a magnetic mesh filter on top, as well as a mesh filter on the bottom, which is just clips in there. It doesn't have a pull-out tray or anything like that. Just simply slides into the slots that are down there to hold that in place. So one thing I will say about this case is if we take the back panel off, non-captive thumb screws, this very much unlike the Lucid case that we recently took a look at, this definitely feels like a much thinner material for the back panel as well as the sides. It definitely feels like a different type of material construction that you see common with the budget cases. Overall, not a bad thing. I mean, it definitely will hold up, but definitely a little bit of a step down. One thing I do like about this case is inside the back here, it does provide for an RGB header to simplify all your RGB for any fans or anything that you do install in that. And that's always nice to have. The other thing is the cable management space, I think, is probably the bare minimum height that they can offer for space back here to be able to cable manage everything up. So something with this, like this case, so it would highly be less likely to go with braided cable extensions in the back because you're going to have actually pretty limited space, but it does look like it provides for a nice number of tie down points throughout the back of the case to do your cable management. I think those braided extension cables, though, are going to definitely cramp it up back there and would probably give it a bulge on the back panel and everything. Of course, we do have our expansion bay, drive expansion bay down here, which we'll actually see if we can remove that, as I don't generally use 3.5-inch drives, and that will provide for some more cable management space. And as far as the accessories that we have here, it looks like they provide the owner's manual, which is a small pamphlet, not a whole lot to that, but it looks like we got an extra expansion cover slot, motherboard screws, as well as some extra long fan screws that I think are going to be threaded for the smaller holes in the floor of the case to allow those fans to be screwed down in there without using typical fan screws. And then, of course, we have the standard front I/O as well as the USB and USB-C connectors and the HD audio that is there. And that all comes pretty standard. And then we do have, like I said, multiple different tie down points that we can use throughout the case to do our cable management, but not a whole lot of area in here to do that cable management. So there's plenty of cutouts to do the runs across to the front. So to get the drive bay out, it's got 4 screws in the back and then 2 screws that permanently attach and don't slide. And then that drive bay just comes right out of there. It's a pretty typical 3.5-inch drive bay. Tempered glass panel on the front that just slides back and detaches. The one thing I will say I do like about this that actually kind of does make it a little bit of ease for building in it is the front glass panel actually just pops right out as well. So that actually frees up a good amount of space to allow you to be able to do your building in there without much obstruction here. With that out, obviously it does affect stability. It doesn't have any support here in the front corner, and you're going to want to be careful of that. But overall, I think as far as being able to remove that glass panel very easily makes it much more simpler to build. With a lot of cases, you can remove that front panel, but usually takes a lot more disassembly to do so. This one, they kind of made it simple and easy to do. The other nice thing about this case, because it is pulling all of its intake air from the floor, is it's fully vented along the sides, front and the side panel there to pull that air in. Again, the big question is going to be how much can it pull around that power supply unit? Because of course that's going to be right over top of this back area here where one of the fans are going to be. And mounting any fans underneath above the power supply unit obviously is not going to be possible at all because of the size of the power supply unit. When you put it in here, you're not going to have that clearance to be able to do that. So any fans you install on the floor are going to have to go on top of the grid on the inside. And of course, on the front IO, along with those USB ports that we talked about, it does have a combination microphone and headset jack, 3.5 millimeters, as well as a power button and the LED button that interacts with the header in the back. So let's get our components together and then we'll build in this case. We'll see how easy it is or if there's any major problems that we run into. And then we'll do a final overall review of the case. From what I'm seeing right now, it's not bad. Again, my big question is going to be around the airflow and how much airflow that's actually getting into it. And then overall, the quality of the case is a pretty standard, basic, is a pretty standard, budget case at $69, which is the top end of what I would consider budget. This definitely falls within that price point, has some interesting design features to it, as well as gives you that USB-C on the front panel, which is nice and a more modern feature than some of the other budget cases that you find that are pretty much restricted to just USB-A. And let's get our parts together and then see what we can do and see how this goes. Overall, having this area here free and clear does make it a little bit nicer, like I said, for building in it. And we're going to do a small build in this that is going to be my streaming PC setup, which is just a few spare parts I had laying around that I'm going to throw together. Okay, so we got the PC all built and everything in there, and building in this case was not bad, but it wasn't without its issues. It was very handy that the front glass actually comes off and frees you up to be able to access things from the front side as well as overhead, and that I found very useful. The problems I ran into, of course, this is a 4060 Ti in here, and with having to mount the fans on the floor of the case, it doesn't leave you any room for any kind of expansion card. So if you're looking to do something on top of the GPU, as well as, a Wi-Fi card or a USB expansion card or something like that, you're not going to be able to get those in there. The PCI slots that are left on the motherboard are blocked by the fans as well as the GPU. Now, if you did go with a slim model fan, you might have a little better looking one in the bottom slot, but then you're going to run into the issue of the screws that come with the case not being able to be short enough to secure those fans down properly, and they do use the longer, thinner screws for that, as there's no mounting points for standard fan screws. Overall, though, the case actually does look pretty decent, and the cable management throughout it was not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Definitely doing anything like sleeve cable extensions is going to be very, very tough in the fact that there's just not enough room to be able to accommodate those. I actually did go with one sleeve cable extension for the GPU, as you can see there, and that was easy to manage, but anything above that would have been very difficult, especially with a 24 pin as well. It does fit about a 160, maybe 165 millimeter air cooler. So that large cooler I have in there was no problem. There's plenty of clearance for that. Okay, so we're going through and updating the BIOS right now. We downloaded right from the ASRock site, so that's going to go through that and take care of that. So far, the temperatures are staying right around that 30 degrees Celsius, which is good. We're getting some good airflow through the top as well as out the back. No concerns as of yet. We still have to install Windows on it to see how it does with that. And then, of course, once we actually start using it as our streaming PC, to see how it does after that. So overall, I think going with this case, really you're gaining a little bit over other budget cases, but you're also losing a little bit due to its size and its fan configuration. You're going to lose the ability to use some of those lower PCIe slots, which if you're not needing them for anything is not horrible. At 69 US dollars, it'd be something that I don't think you should have to give up, but you are gaining the USB-C slot on the front I/O, which a lot of budget cases don't actually have. If you look back at our Pellucid video that had USB 3.0 but didn't have any USB-C slots, where this one does. So it's a bit of a trade-off there. Overall, I think for 69 US dollars, if you like this style and you're not doing heavy loads and things like that, I think you'll be fine with this case. I did install a small 8-inch screen in here. I don't have it plugged in right now because I still have to install Windows. I'll plug it in after the fact. But what I plan on doing with this is running some IDA 64 to keep monitoring on the temps as well as everything else while I'm doing streaming. But overall, not a bad case. It's really going to come down to personal preference, whether you're okay giving up those extra slots. Again, there will be a link for this case in the description. If you have this case or if you've had experience with it, maybe you loved it, maybe you hated it, let me know what you think and leave me a comment. Definitely appreciate all you guys checking out the video and everything. And keep an eye out for future case reviews and in the budget area. And hopefully we'll see you guys next time and have a great day.